Hi there. Thank you so much for stopping by to listen to this recording. And I have to apologize because when I did this recording, I forgot to record the bio for Dr. Paul. So I'm going to do that now, and I hope that you'll just bear with me before you actually hear the recorded interview. So Dr. Paul is a chiropractor. He has his own clinics in the Mississauga, Ontario, Canada area. He and his wife, Renata, have 3 children. He is also a human performance coach, a formulator of nutritional products, and he has worked with a lot of different people in the area of performance and training. So Paul's expertise and knowledge in therapy and training, and he has so much nutrition background, so he's been able to help athletes maximize their performance and their gains. And you'll hear more about that in the interview because he explains how it was that he became very interested in that. And I apologize, I am working from home and my children are in the background in case you hear them. He's worked with several high performance athletes from NHL, MLS, UFC, CSL, CFL, Canadian National Junior Hockey Team, the Canadian National Tennis, judo, wrestling, and taekwondo, just to name a few. He really works with a lot of high performance sports nutrition, he creates high performance sports nutrition programs for elite and professional athletes, and most recently for UFC heavyweight champion Stipe Miocic. And I always say that name wrong. I'm really sorry about that for people that know how to pronounce it properly. He has also customized programs for athletes from different other organizations such as MLS, MLB, CFL, NHL, and several other Canadian national teams. He also lectures to amateur athletes, and we get to benefit from his knowledge as well, because the cool thing about this interview that you'll find is that even though he works with a lot of elite and professional athletes, he has so much to offer all of us. And he explains why it is that the partnership with the company that I've partnered with since 2009 is the leader in nutrition, and why it is that we want to be feeding our children the same things that he recommends his elite athletes. He'll explain a lot about that in this interview. So thanks again for stopping by, and I'm so grateful that even though you might not have been able to join us live, you are here to experience the interview firsthand. And the great thing about recording is, hey, you get to press pause, you can rewind, you can share this with other people, and you can listen to it as many times as you'd like. If you have any questions after this recording, I was going to say after this interview, please just reach out to myself, I'm Tara Cooper, or to Dr. Paul Biondich himself, and we're both very approachable. You can find us on social media, and you can probably find us on Google as well. All right, and without further ado, let me just get right into the interview.
It's just a pure passion of mine. I love it. I love talking about it. I love working with athletes and people, amateurs, kids. You know, it doesn't matter. Anybody who really wants to strive to the next level. It's just something I love doing.
Awesome. And I'm so grateful because there's been times where I've asked questions to you, and I feel silly sometimes asking because I'm certainly not a pro athlete by any means, but you have been, and I have to say this, I didn't say this in the bio, you are just so humble and so down to earth, and you're very easy to connect with on that natural human level. So as much as you have all these amazing accolades, you are just a regular person just like us, not saying just, but you really are somebody that is easy to approach, and I really appreciate that. So thank you for being willing to be here and to also answer questions from people that feel like maybe their questions are silly or small, because no question is too small or too large for you, I'm sure.
Thank you, Tara.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And I do have some people that are live on our Zoom call tonight. So I just want to mention, because some people are tuning in from Facebook Live. And if you're on Facebook Live, unfortunately, Dr. Paul and I cannot see your questions personally right now. But after the call, if we see some questions, we can either respond to those questions on the feed below, or we can also get back to you if it's something personal that you have a question for us. But the people that have actually joined us with the password tonight in our Zoom call, you can actually have some time at the end to ask some questions, or if you have a question during the process, you can type it in and we will respond to those ones this evening. And again, there might be people that come in and you're automatically muted, but we will be able to unmute you later on as the call goes into that question and answer period, if that's okay. So thanks for your patience. All right, so I have some questions here for you, and I'm sure that there's going to be some things that maybe I don't cover that you think, oh, you know what, I really want to mention that. So feel free to cut me off or say, I want to just add another thing along that line. So I'm going to jump right in. I'm going to just ask you, when you heard, and many people on this call already know this is related to isogenics. We are not trying to convince people of isogenics being better than anything else, but I know that you have a lot of knowledge in the area of sports nutrition and regular nutrition. So before you knew about isogenics, I know that one of your colleagues and friends, Dr. Michelle Dickey, had introduced you to isogenics, and you had no idea what this company was. I remember you speaking about this from stage at times, and you were really surprised. You didn't really understand how it was that you didn't know about it, because, you know, once you found out what it was, you were really quite surprised because you had done so much research. So can you tell us a little bit more about how you were introduced and how it became part of your life?
Yeah, absolutely. So Dr. Michelle Dickey and Alistair, by the way, are the latest isogenic millionaires. So congratulations to them. And we're very fortunate to be partnered with Michelle and Alistair. So and with yourself and all the other members of Isogenics. So it's been very, very great for Renata and I. But so prior to Isogenics, I'm a little bit of an obsessive compulsive squirrel when it comes to nutrition. So I study nutrition, globally. So what's happening in Canada, United States, Australia, New Zealand, Germany, because nutrition is global. My athletes are global. They compete globally. So it's a little bit naive to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to just look at nutrition in Canada or the United States even. The world is a big place, right? Mm-hmm. So I got into a habit of, at one point, I had 500 protein bars in my computer. So if somebody asked me, hey, Paul, what's the, best protein bar in the world? I could actually answer that question, factually, not from an opinion. Opinions actually don't win you world championships. Results do. So I was really driven into a results-oriented business or results-oriented nutrition. That was really my concepts. So that's the way I was really approaching nutrition companies, the way products works or don't, food, all the above. And I was trying to, learn from the best in the world. And so one of the sport nutritionists I was learning from was consulting for primarily a lot of the U.S. Olympic team athletes. And I loved what he did, and I learned a lot from him and others. And how it started was Dr. Michelle called me one day and said, hey, Paul, I know you analyze protein companies and protein bars and know a lot of nutritional companies globally. Can you do me a favor, and can you look at this product and this protein powder from Isogenics, which I at that time I really never heard of before, and said, give me the lowdown. What do you think of this product? And so for me, this would take me, I've said this before, about 2.6 seconds to look at the ingredients and find 13 things I wouldn't feed to my cat. That's basically it. And in a nutshell, very simply, I quickly look at the first 3 ingredients and the last 3 ingredients, because the first 3 ingredients will tell you what it's primarily made up of. And it's usually the most expensive ingredients or the cheapest ingredients, depending on what side of the pendulum of quality you're on. And then the last 3 ingredients are usually where, you'll find the bad stuff, the artificial flavors, sweeteners, all those things. So you can do a really quick scan and pick up a lot of things that you like and don't like. And so when I did my quick scan, I was a little bit shocked because, one of the primary proteins that they were using in the Isogenics protein was whey protein concentrate. And I'm not going to get into the whole debate, but whey protein concentrate is considered the best protein in the world for a lot of reasons. And if you don't have a lactose intolerance, it is the protein of choice. Whey protein isolate doesn't have the lactose. So, for people who have severe sensitivities, it also is a very good protein. So, but going down the list, I looked at the formula and I said, this looks very similar to what the U.S. Olympic team athletes were using. And I actually had that sample of that protein with me, and I literally compared it from ingredient to proteins, carbs, all the metrics all the way down. And I was shocked because the Isagenix protein was actually slightly better than what the U.S. Olympic team athletes were using or were being recommended to. So that was my first clue. And I said, okay, I want to know who the designer of this formula is, because I haven't seen a formula designed like this, because it's very expensive to make good quality products. So I'm like, who is this company? What are they about? Who is the designer? And then when I found out who the designer of the program is, because I have designed products in the past, so I know the difficulty it is and the challenges is to put a high quality product at a price point people can afford. And when I found that it was John Anderson, and then you say, okay, who's John Anderson? And you find out that John Anderson is the basically master formulator in the world. He's formulated 2,300 products for over 600 companies. Then you go, aha, okay, fine. They make one good protein powder. What else do they have, right? And then I see this thing called Ionic Supreme, which is really an adaptogenic formula. Now I'm gonna kind of fly back into 1998 and 98, about that. I was in school in Chicago, and my professor of nutrition at the time talked about adaptogens and how they regulate cortisol and how the Russians were using this secret adaptogenic formula to enhance repair, recovery, and growth. The cosmonauts were using it. The Russian Olympic athletes were using it to improve performance, recovery, and so I started, researching adaptogens at that time, and I found this guy called Dr. Ben Tabachnik. And he was the former strength conditioning coach of the former Soviet Union, who defected from Russia or Soviet Union, came to the United States, brought this secret Russian formula with him of adaptogens, and started a company called PrimeQuest. I reached out to Dr. Ben Tabachnik. He actually sent me about 200 pages of Russian research converted to English, all about regarding adaptogens. And so for me, this was Christmas for me. I thought I hit the jackpot, because you can imagine, 1998, that's 22 years ago, if my math is correct, very few people knew what the word adaptogens mean. Even today, the word adaptogens is still not familiar with people. And so I'm telling this story, in Isagenix, and I'm speaking with Jim Coover, obviously one of the owners of Isagenix. And Jim looked at me and he said, Dr. Ben Tabachnik, he was PrimeQuest. He goes, we worked together back then. So Jim Coover and Ben Tabachnik worked together at PrimeQuest at that time. And so that formula that we have, or that Isagenix have, the adaptogenic formula, is near, almost identical to the original formula from the former Soviet Union. And what people, I get this question a lot, when they talked about adaptogens and herbs, controlling cortisol, controlling repair, recovery, and growth, they say, well, Paul, I've looked at the ingredients and, there's just not enough of certain ingredients in there. The dosing looks very low. And, it's a logical question. It makes sense, but, it's not always about dosing. It's about synergistic blends, synergistic ingredients. When the body works on cascades, A goes to B, goes to C, goes to D. So it's not always, that you need high doses of certain ingredients. You need the right sequence or the right amount of ingredients just to trip or start the next sequence of events from a biological perspective. So, just the further deeper I went into intermittent fasting. So again, intermittent fasting, or, Isagenix was calling it really our cleanse days, okay? But technically it was intermittent fasting. And I was doing intermittent fasting with my athletes, prior to Isagenix. And when I really looked at the whole system with an adaptogenic formula controlling cortisol, best proteins in the world with protein pacing for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, intermittent fasting component, which we know, helps the liver, supports the liver in getting efficient. And we know when we have an efficient liver, we metabolize excessive estrogens, and when we metabolize or get rid of excessive estrogens, then the body composition changes in a favorable way, both for men and women. So it was a mind-boggling discovery, really, for me, a personal discovery, because what took me about 20 years to learn, to intentionally learn, to spend a lot of money and learning these things and studying these things and making a lot of mistakes, Isagenix essentially put 20 years of I'm not going to say my knowledge because it's not me doing it, but what I learned in 20 years, it comes in a box to your door and you get it in 2 days. I mean, it's really mind-blowing when you think of it in that perspective.
Absolutely. Sorry, I was muted there so I don't get background noise for you. Absolutely. And that's, I think, the thing that gives me goosebumps every time I hear that, because I've heard that story before about how it all came together for you. And when you did mention at times on stage too that sometimes you see a company that has a one product wonder, like they're just so amazing with that one product, but then the rest of them have kind of gone downhill. And you know, you saw those two products first, the shake and the ionics, and you were amazed that they both were very high quality and great ingredients. So, and I know that the rest of the product line is like that for you too, because we're going to talk about some of the other products that you recommend for your athletes. So you have been running your own practices for chiropractic and also sports medicine for a number of years, obviously decades likely. And what was it that got you involved in the whole area of helping pro athletes? What got you involved in that?
I think it actually goes back to my days of, I went to University of Waterloo for kinesiology, and when I was taking that course, they had a lot of experiments that you could actually volunteer for, so like as a guinea pig or a rat lab, basically. And I volunteered for all kinds of crazy stuff in the kinesiology department. So everything from VO2 max tests to muscle biopsies, training to failure to see lactate or lactic acid levels. So I just had a real keen interest on kind of pushing the limits of the body, and I always voluntarily put myself into that position to test, what can I do personally. And if I played hockey at a high level and soccer at the same time. So, the two things dove together, and to the point where, and I don't think I've ever told this story, but when I was, and thankfully the guys from University of Waterloo probably won't remember this or be around, but one of the VO2 max tests I was doing, I had a CO2 mask, oxygen mask on. They were measuring, blood pressure, heart rate, oxygen levels, all that stuff. So I wanted to see how I could manipulate my cardiovascular or VO2 uptake on my own using certain supplements that I knew worked. And so I was self-dosing or self-medicating myself during these tests. And I didn't tell the researchers this because I wanted to see for myself what happens. And what was going on was all my values were going through the roof. Like the charts are going up. And the researchers, it was literally a ticker tape coming out with the values coming out, and they're looking at the tape and going, they couldn't figure out, they couldn't understand why these numbers are off the chart compared to all the other volunteers. And so I took the data home with me and started analyzing, and I think that was the start of me thinking about, how can I take the body to the next level? How can I improve performance to the next level with the use of supplementation, vitamins, nutrition, etc. And I think that's where it all began.
That's cool. I'm glad I asked that question because, I haven't heard that part of your story. So that's amazing. Now we have an amped line, which for some people, they don't know what that is. And we're going to explain it. But it also has an informed sports certification. So can you explain to the average person what informed certified means, or informed sports certified means? And we'll get into a little bit more about the amped products after that.
So informed sport is a third-party assessing tool or assessing company. So basically, they take your product, right, and they send it out to a third party, and they test what's inside. They verify are the ingredients on the label actually here? Now, that may sound a little bit obvious to everybody and say, well, isn't it, isn't the product have the ingredients that's, on the label? And the answer is no, because there's no police dog, there's no watchdog in the nutrition world. Most companies, unfortunately, are not putting, what's on the label is not what's inside the product. They're cheaper fillers, sometimes dangerous products, sometimes they're putting banned substances in it. There's been lots of cases where pro athletes have tested positive for banned substances and unknowingly consuming them because they're taking dietary supplements that haven't been third-party tested. So beyond the elite athlete or the NCAA or the college athlete, which they're required to take Informed for Sport certified products, I really think the main value is for parents. This is the number one thing I would say to parents. If you're going to take a product or recommend, the kids are getting into high school and they're working out and they want to get, more fit, etc. Parents want to know that their products are safe. Number one. Parents want to know that there's no banned substances, there's nothing illegal in there. Parents want to know that what's on the label is actually on the label. So these are beyond professional athletes. That's for a small percentage. I think the big value is in for, I'm a parent as well. Renata and I have 3 kids, so I think it's for you, it's for me, it's for really everybody. It should be the gold standards. I don't think that any nutritional company should sell a product without an Informed for Sport certification. And it's actually scary that most companies don't have it.
That's a really great, and you know what, I never thought about that, because you're right, there's very few people that may use our products that are professional athletes, but it's not just for the professional athlete. I know myself, I started getting back into fitness in January, and I'm so happy because it took me years to get there. But I have to say that if it wasn't for our AMP line, I might not be in that place that I am now, of getting back into my workouts every day. Obviously missing a few sometimes, but it has helped me so much with, I think the main reason I actually can use the word hated working out, was because I got so sore. And then I was like, now I'm out for 5 days. I can hardly walk up the stairs because I did a bunch of squats and lunges. And now I can't even begin to tell people how amazing the products are when they are working together. So I'm going to get into that now. We have obviously many different products in the AMP line, one of which you've actually been the formulator behind. So I'd love for you to tell us a bit about that as well. But when you look at the AMP line itself, and I know that's only one area, that's only one solution that Isagenix offers, what do you see as the most important parts of our AMP line, if there are most important parts, or are they all important? Because some people are like, well, I'm just kind of the average. I do some fitness, I work out every couple days, maybe they're weekend warriors. What are the absolute must-have products for people that are an average fitness level?
Yeah, I mean, a bit of a loaded question, of course, but I'm going to try to bookend this question, so from front to back. Okay, and there's pieces in between, but we're gonna talk about bare bones. One of the products I really like is AMP Nitro. And one of the reasons I like AMP Nitro, I mean, it has 100 milligrams of caffeine in it. So just put things in perspective, an extra large or Venti Grande, I don't know what the proper term is, of Starbucks coffee, so we can relate to, how big that thing is. That's about 420 milligrams of caffeine, okay? So 100 milligrams is not a lot, okay? It's just the right amount. And there's other ingredients in there to help, buffer lactic acid to get rid of that soreness. But I love AMP Nitro because sometimes your partner shows up to the gym, sometimes your partner doesn't show up to the gym. But I consider Nitro your partner in your bottle, right? Because it doesn't matter how tired or fatigued you're feeling or unmotivated, you drag yourself to the gym, or maybe people are working out at home now because gyms are closed, during this crisis. But you're going to take AMP Nitro, and you know that it's going to give you that amazing energy, that drive to push, and you're going to feel amazing and have an amazing workout. So I just like it as a staple because it's a very consistent product that gives you a consistent energy. Whether your training partner is there or not, it keeps you motivated and say, you know what, I love going to the gym. I'm getting results. So it's an easy product to use. The second really one, if I talk about bookends, the front and the back, we're going to talk about the back. And Tara, you mentioned yourself, you said, you know, when I was working out, I was getting sore, and I was sore for 3-4 days. And, you know, a lot of that is just simply, you know, your recovery shake. Are you giving your body, are you giving your muscles the nutrients it needs to recover? And if you're not, then your repair, recovery, and growth is not happening. It's not, never mind optimizing, it's just not occurring. And so that soreness can stay for days and days and days. And, you know, it can demotivate you and go, oh my God, I can't go to the gym because I don't want to feel like this. So, you know, we have an amazing line of protein, from vegan proteins to whey protein, to higher proteins, lower proteins. I mean, there's such a nice variety of protein options, recovery shakes, from almost no carb, you know, to low carb. So that is super, super important. So once you take that recovery shake from Isagenix, repair, recovery, growth happens. You're building your lean muscle mass. We know the more lean muscle mass you're building, the more fat you're burning. That's why it's so important for men and women to build lean muscle mass. It's the best way to promote fat loss and to stay lean. So I mean, there's the AMP line is big, but if I really kind of distilled it down to 2 simple products, and neither one I was involved in formulating, but AMP Nitro and a post-workout recovery shake are essential.
Amazing. And I have to say, I love Nitro. I actually find that when I take my first sip, it's like this trigger that goes, okay, you're ready. You can do this. And of course I have to down the rest of it, but it tastes so good. It turns on that whole motivation factor. You're right. It's like my partner in crime. So on that note, I want to have people understand that, yes, the formulation behind a product that came from you. Can you tell us a little bit about that product? Because I know that it's kind of, I mean, it's one of those things, again, that some people already know about the benefits of this certain ingredient, and there's many other ingredients in there. But when people start to read up about it and they're like, I need to find something with this ingredient, where can I find it? They can find it here. So can you tell us a little bit about that product?
Yeah, I mean, the product's called AMP Nox, and you know, Nox really came from 2012 London Olympics. Was called the Beetroot Olympics. That was the nickname, because almost every Olympic athlete in the 2012 Olympics were taking some sort of beetroot concentrate, and the studies were showing that beetroot concentrate can improve endurance up. I mean, there's varying studies, but up to 16% in 7 days. So that's crazy amazing, right? And so I was the first person in North America to import a commercially prepared beetroot product from the UK. It was where the original company came from. And I started, it was basically, nobody knew about it virtually in North America. I mean, I'm a little naive to say that nobody knew about it, but anybody who did was not promoting it. Let's put it to you that way. It was a secret, okay? So I started testing it with my athletes to say, hey, try this. It doesn't taste very good, doesn't matter, but it's going to blow your endurance through the roof. And that's what happened. The results were incredible. Especially what I loved is for measured time. So any athlete like who's a cyclist or a swimmer or who knows their times, and I'll give a real world example. So I had a swimmer who was trying to make the Junior Olympics, and he was a 50-meter swimmer. And he missed the qualifying by 0.16 seconds, so which is obviously not a lot. And a 50-meter sprint is very short. So I said to him, okay, and he qualifying was coming up again. He's like, I don't know if I can do it. My training isn't improved. My times are not improving. I'm working like crazy. So I put him on a very simple program. It wasn't actually too complicated, using Isagenix and using AMP Nox. And he ran the race or swam the race, and he beat his record, his time, by 1 full second. Now, 1 full second on a 50-meter sprint over 7 days of supplementation, that's crazy. That's a lot, okay? And I had another swimmer who, I mean, he's swimming longer distances, about 1,500 meters. Same thing, we put him on Nox, a couple other Isagenix products, and he beat his time by 26 seconds. So we can see that, these products are really game changers, because for me, I'm in the results oriented business. We have to use products that produce results. If you produce results, then you're in the game. And really, it doesn't matter about what's the science behind it. I mean, to some people, it's going to matter. But what I love is that, yes, I can talk about the science of how NOx works, but at the end of the day, who really cares? Because if you take it, it's healthy for you. You know how to take it properly, and it produces results. You, Tara, you can explain that to your fellow swimmer or cyclist or soccer player or runner, and just say, hey, you know what? You got a meet coming up, or you want to improve your times, or you want to improve circulation, or you want to improve oxygen absorption, or use less oxygen for higher output. Then it's very simple. Take this NOx product, which looks similar to this, just red. Take it once a day, for 7 days, including about 2 hours prior to your race time. And for some people, you can take 2 a day, just to bring up the nitrate levels in the blood plasma, and the results are consistent. So that's really the magic behind it. Is it's a very reproducible, consistent product. We're really, anybody can use, anybody can share. So it's anybody who's really interested in improving endurance, and it doesn't actually have to be for athletes, because some people who just need improved circulation in their body can also benefit from the product as well. So, not making any medical claims or for medical conditions, but we know that it's kind of obvious to who needs improved circulations in what areas of the body, and I mean, it will consistently do that. So you can take 1 NOx a day, and it'll assist the body in that. And just one small tip with NOx, the saliva actually improves the activation of the nitrate to nitrite conversion in the blood plasma. So if you're taking a NOx, just swirl it in your mouth a little bit, enjoy the taste, and it just activates the process a little faster.
And is there any difference between refrigeration or just room temperature?
No, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Doesn't matter. I actually, when I think of my e-shots, I like mine room temperature. A lot of people like them cold, but I was wondering the same with NOx, if it's a preference or if it's actually beneficial to do one or the other. So.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is that because the natural enzymes and bacteria in your mouth, saliva, helps activate it, it's not advisable to brush your teeth and then drink it, because you could potentially wash a lot of the beneficial bacteria and enzymes in the mouth. So that's it.
Okay, thank you for that. So I know that there's probably some people on here that may or may not have heard you speak before. And I remember a time when you kind of gave us a golden formula for some pre-workout and post-workout. And I know things have changed because our AMP line has definitely evolved over time. But do you have any recommendations for somebody to put some products together for the pre-workout and maybe the during, because I know we have some during, and the post? Is that too much to ask?
No, I mean, not at all. I mean, they're pretty basic formulas, but they're very powerful formulas. And that's one of the things I love. I love when things are simple, but they work. And going back to, AMP NOx is really, the nitrate levels in the blood peak at around 2 hours. So if you can time things in your workouts, you take an AMP NOx about 2 hours before your workout, and then AMP Nitro about 10 to 15 minutes before. And that combination is just incredible. I mean, it's just, you almost feel endless in terms of the power and energy that you're producing. During training, okay, which is really interesting, is that up to 15% of your energy during training is coming from the breakdown of muscle. And so if we want to maximize repair, recovery, and growth, then if there's a way we can minimize that 15% breakdown or 15% utilization of energy from our lean muscle, then it would help us in the repair, recovery, growth afterwards. And so if we look at which amino acids are our body taking from our muscle to use for energies, and it's branched chain amino acids, BCAAs, leucine, isoleucine, valine. And so we have a product, and other companies too, but we have a very clean product that has BCAAs and other amino acids. So if you take that during your training, then in your water bottle, for instance, with our amped hydrate, you can combine the two. Then you're going to minimize the breakdown of lean muscle mass, and you're going to maximize your repair, recovery, and growth. So that would be a during training suggestion. And then post training, I still love Isoline Pro. 36 grams of protein, 21 grams of low glycemic carbs, healthy fats, trace minerals, no artificial flavors, sweeteners, no soy-based proteins, which I can't stand. And if we combine that with a scoop of Ionic Supreme, our adaptogens, because post-workout our cortisol levels can rise, and high levels of cortisol can impede repair, recovery, and growth. So if we can tamper that effect down, then we can enhance our recovery. And then I love isogreens. I love the alkalinity effect of the greens. So that's my little trifecta: is Isoline Pro, Ionic Supreme, and isogreens in your post-workout shake.
Awesome. Now, I know that there's probably a lot of questions, and of course, not everybody's on our Zoom call, but I know I asked my husband. He's not able to watch live, but because he's taking care of the kids, but he will watch the recording. And I asked him earlier today, I said, if you could ask Dr. Paul a question, what would it be? And he said, well, I would actually want to ask him, what's one of the most common questions that you get asked? Because we might not think to ask that.
Okay, yeah, that's a very good question. I would say the most common question I get asked is too much protein bad for me? Right? Because it's an interesting question. I get it, moms ask me that question, dads ask me that questions. I mean, and everybody's so concerned about protein. I know that's too much protein. I don't want to. It's bad for my kidneys or bad for you. It's interesting because they will ask me that question while they're eating that row of chocolate chip cookies, and I'm like, does anybody ask, is that row of chocolate chip cookies bad for you? I mean, there's no limitation on sweets or ice cream, or nobody's asking that question. But yet protein, which is responsible for the reproduction of your hair, your skin, your nails. Half your body's dry weight is made up of protein. 80% of your bone is made up of not calcium, it's made up of protein. So, forget about lean muscle mass. The DNA structures in your brain is made up of protein. There's over 300,000 different enzymes that are made up of protein. And we know that protein has a very difficult time converting to fat, unlike the chocolate chip cookies or ice cream that you're overeating. So when it comes to protein, when you look at it, there's almost no disadvantage to what I would call overconsumption of protein. And the studies have been very, very clear on this. They have said, high protein diets, there is no risk for anybody consuming a high protein diet for long periods of time. There's no issue on kidney function. Of course, if somebody has an underlying medical condition, if they have kidney impairment, it's a different conversation. But if you are a healthy adult, having a normal diet, and consuming a high protein diet, there's nothing wrong with it. And especially important is for young growing kids. I mean, kids are growing. Their energy demands and their protein demands are very high. Their bones, the hair, skin, nails, muscles, everything. So in fact, parents should really be looking at making sure that the protein consumption in growing kids is adequate.
And actually, I did have a question about kids. I kind of skipped over it because of time constraints, but this might be something that people are interested in. As far as children go, and you did mention that you have 3 kids of your own, and I have 3 kids as well, and they're all school age, so they're not teenagers yet. I know we have a guideline for, we've got an allergy chart as well as a recommended years for kids to have certain products. And I know my kids we've got 2 or 3 cabinets full of isogenic stuff because we have overflow. We go through it so fast. And there's times in between meals where they go, I just want a shake. Or maybe after dinner, they want a shake because maybe we didn't have the healthiest of dinners, but they actually crave it. So do you have a certain, I guess, recommendation for people with their kids? Because I know certain things we definitely shouldn't be giving our kids. But are there certain things that you really have as your staples for your own kids?
Well, I mean, we can't keep the Isogenics protein bars in stock because the kids just keep eating them. I mean, besides they taste amazing, but they're a meal replacement. Okay, so they're ideal for on the go after soccer. You didn't have time to make breakfast. You can take it and it's just a very convenient, high quality meal replacement with very good protein content in it. And of course, for my kids love the isolene shake. It's just they make it on their own. They add their own strawberries and blueberries and whatever else they want to add in. But those two products are just a staple for us. We're at home. We do the isolene, and then when we're out and about, busy with soccer, then the protein bars are phenomenal.
Awesome. All right. I'm going to open it up. I see that there's somebody live that has a message here. I'm just going to look at this. Okay. I have a number of athletes dealing with injuries, so they can't train as usual while they rehab. What protocol of products must they have to help with injury recovery?
Well, number one is protein. So protein is your repair, recovery, and growth. I mean, that's the most important. And, the Isogenics protein is, I mean, we have two lines. We have a grass-fed whey protein, which in my opinion is the best for repair, recovery, and growth. And we have a vegan line, which is amazing. And what they did interesting about the vegan line is they combined certain vegan proteins to create the amino acid profile to equal whey protein. So essentially, vegan proteins have always been considered inferior to whey protein in terms of repair, recovery, and growth. But with the Isogenics, I mean, the formulators in Isogenics, they're the smartest people, in the world when it comes to nutrition. And they realized this and they said, hey, why don't we make a vegan protein that is equal to whey in terms of the amino acid profile, which means that you're an injured athlete, ability to repair, recover, and growth is the same. So, and I love switching my protein. So I love, and it's highly recommended that you should be switching your protein. So you can have whey protein, vegan, mix it up. It's just good for the body to do that. And we also have an actual product called Recover. So, Recover, as the name implies, has, natural botanicals and herbs that improve the recovery process in an injury. So you can actually add that and put a scoop into your protein powder, whether it's Isolene or Isolene Pro, vegan or whey. And a lot of the recovery actually happens at night as well. So some athletes will actually take their protein shake before bed with the Recover. And that just kind of, and because the whey protein is very, very fast acting and absorbing, it gets into the body quickly, and then the body starts repairing at night. So those are the recommendations I would do.
Awesome. And I have to say, I've had multiple people in the past, without making any kind of medical claims at all, where they've had injuries or surgeries. And their doctors say to them, how are you healing so fast? I haven't seen this happen. And they've been using our products and they're just like, I couldn't believe how quickly I recovered, right? Even my husband was just saying the other day, after his knee surgery, he was up running within 7 days. It was ridiculous. So it's pretty amazing. And we're not saying that is going to happen for you. Obviously take advice from your doctor. But it's pretty amazing when we give the body the best ingredients and nutrients, whether it be from traditional food sources that are really high quality or whether it is supplementation. And that's going to lead me to the very last question that I have is there's a lot of mixed thought about, well, I want to get all my nutrients from food. I know this is a common question that I get, or a common observation that I'm seeing when people have that as their main reason why they wouldn't want to try what we have, that they want to get their nutrients from food. Can you just kind of focus on that for a few seconds or a few minutes?
Yeah, I think the thought of getting all your nutrition from food is a romantic concept. It's impractical and it doesn't exist. I mean, when I started out in the nutrition world, of course, I was a whole food proponent. So, organic whole food, against supplements, against the protein powders, all that stuff. I've been down that road, and many others in the past, and I've learned not to dig my heels in ideologies or concepts, because often you're going to be unfortunately proven wrong. It's not even proven wrong. It's just that you want what's the best for you. Now, practically speaking, our soils are done, right? They've been overcropped, overfarmed. We don't do rotational crop farming in North America. Maybe some Eastern European countries still do it in some remote villages where they 1/4 of the crop that they allow to basically perish, and then they rotate the crops. That doesn't happen. So those micronutrients just basically don't exist in our soils. That's number one. And number two, because the pesticides and herbicides that they're spraying on the mass crops, these are killing the microbes in the soil that actually convert organic rock into inorganic material. So that micro trace minerals that are supposed to exist in the plants don't. So that's another reason. And a lot of the fertilizers that are being used in crop growing accelerate the growth of the plant or the vegetable or whatever it's growing. And we know that certain foods need time to develop those phytonutrients inside. I'll give you an example, okay? So tomatoes, one of the functional ingredients in tomatoes is called lycopene. But lycopene needs time to develop inside the tomato. So you can't rush the growth of a tomato. So if you're putting fertilizers and accelerants so that tomato goes, in record time, there's little to no lycopene in that tomato. So you have to have an organically grown tomato where the soils are native and the growth rate of the tomato is native to its natural growth rate. And then inside there's a high probability, hopefully, that, lycopene exists. So one of the things, and I'm going off on a tangent small here, but organic and non-organic food is more about the phytochemicals or nutrients that exist in organic versus not. And because pesticides, organic foods still use pesticides. And just because they're natural doesn't mean they're any safer, right? Snake venom is very natural. So that's not the component. But having said that, supplementation is absolutely 100% mandatory in today's North American age. And there's been lots of studies that have looked at the how much iron is in spinach today versus 40 years ago. And there's been, if you want to do the research, there's tons of studies in that backing it. So supplementation is mandatory, especially for growing kids. So no, you cannot get all your nutrition from whole foods. It's, in my opinion, nearly impossible.
Thank you very much. Now, I know we've got about 10 minutes left. We don't have a lot of people live on Zoom, so I'm sure there's questions on Facebook Live. I'm going to just open it up. If there's anyone that is with us right now on Zoom that has a question that maybe you didn't have a chance to ask in the chat, if you want to unmute yourself, you can do so. I'll just give a couple, 20 seconds or so of that weird pause. All right, and would I be, this is kind of one of those loaded questions too, just to end. Could you say that you have one favorite product?
I would have to say, I'm going to say there's 3 favorite products. I'm going to say number 1, I think the Biondich Supreme is probably the most influential, game-changing product that exists, because stress is epidemic in North American society. Stress and cortisol levels create the biggest havoc on our hormonal system, especially for women. I'm not saying men don't have it, but we're more like single cell amoebas. We're pretty simple beings. But with balancing hormones, it is very difficult. Cortisol is the disruptor. Cortisol is the disruptor hormone that throws everything out of balance. So if you want to come into balance for energy levels, hormonal balance, repair, recovery, growth, weight loss, especially fat loss, the number one thing you need to do, which is not addressed, very rarely addressed anywhere in any other system, any other nutritional company or program, that you heard and listened to from, paleo or whatever the systems are out there. There's no other system to address stress levels and cortisol levels. So whether it's fat loss, balancing hormones, repair, recovery, and growth, becoming an elite athlete, it doesn't matter. It is probably Ionic Supreme. Now I said 3, but I'm going to stick to hold to 1 to say that I've never seen another product like it, formulation-wise, or more importantly, work the way it does. And I mean, everybody who's experimented, tried it, and used it knows exactly what I'm talking about.
All right, well, we have had a lot of information given to you guys today, and if anybody is curious or wants to know more, please feel free to reach out to Dr. Paul or myself or the individual that shared this recording with you or this live, because after this it will be sent to a recording and we'll have it available to share around. So get the support you deserve, because this is not something you want to buy on Amazon or eBay, even though you may be able to find those things on there. It is actually against compliance for people to sell on those websites. And the reason we don't want you to go there either is because you can't be guaranteed that you're going to have, number one, a 30-day guarantee like every single one of us has with every brand new product we try. And it may not be the authentic product. We know there's a lot of hackers out there in every area of the world, and there's a lot of people really doing fraud. So go to someone you can trust, and if you don't know who to go to, reach out to the person that shared this with you, because chances are if they're not helping people with Isagenix, they know someone who can help. So thank you so much for your time tonight, Dr. Paul, and I like to call you Paul because you're my friend too.
Yeah.
I know that you appreciate that as well. And if anyone has questions, please don't hesitate to reach out, or at least put a message below this video in Facebook, and we will definitely get back to you. So is there anything else that maybe we missed that you want to just say for last remarks, Dr. Paul?
I would just say that, Isagenix 30-day system is a system. It has all the components in it for you to become successful. Trust the system, try it out, trust the person who introduced it to you, and give it a try. That's all.
Awesome, thank you. And there's one more comment here. I'm just going to read it. This has been such a great call. Thank you, Tara, for hosting, and Dr. Biondich for sharing your time and knowledge. So appreciated. So thank you very much, and thanks for everyone that joined us. Have a great evening and take care.
Thanks, bye-bye. Thank you, Tara.